Hello and welcome. Are you looking for a device that will help you streamline your live stream workflow? If so, we're going to look at the Rode Streamer X and compare it to the new Mackie Mainstream. I'm going to go over all of the differences between the two and then also walk you through which device might work best for you given your situation. My name is Cree, and on this channel, I talk about tech with context. So if you are interested in learning how I use video production tech in my everyday workflow, consider subscribing. Now, when it comes to live streaming, these are devices that I use every single day, from conference calls with clients to recording podcasts or virtual interviews. These are great devices to use. And the reason why is because you can capture multiple input sources like a video source and an audio source. It's routed all through one device, and you're sending one signal to your computer to send out and do your live stream. So that just streamlines everything. You're only using one USB port on your laptop or your computer at the end of the day, and then you have access to all of the functionality that comes with these two devices. So the Streamer X has been out for a while. If you have been following my channel for a while, I've done a number of videos on this device. I really enjoy using it, and there's so many different use cases for it that I'm excited to dive into the Mackie Mainstream. Now, there's a couple of caveats here. The Mackie Mainstream, because it's new on the market, the accompanying software is not available yet. So it does have pads on the top of the device, which I'll go through here in a minute. But because that software isn't available yet, I cannot do a full review on this device quite yet. The Rode Streamer X does have Rode Central that I've reviewed in a previous video. So that's where you can go in and you can modify certain audio and video controls. You can also program the pads on these devices, but the Mackie doesn't have that yet. Now, here's the other interesting tidbit. In early December, Rode announced that they purchased Mackie, this company. So it's interesting to me that they still chose to release this device, that they chose to release it without the accompanying software. I can't find anywhere on their website when this software might be available. And I imagine that in the future, we're going to see the functionality in these devices combined. So that is exciting. In the meantime, these two devices are available on the market, and we may as well take a look at both of these. And that's what we'll do next. Let's start with the price. As of the recording of this video, the Streamer X is coming in at $399. The Mackie Mainstream is coming in at $299. Now, at first glance, the Mackie Mainstream is bigger. It has more controls on it. I haven't shown you the ports on the back of this device yet, but there are more ports that are available. But at the end of the video, we'll revisit the pricing that these companies have decided to go with on these two products. And I'll give you kind of my input as to why I think the Streamer X is actually worth spending an extra $100 on given your certain situation. So again, I'll go over that a little later in the video, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at the controls that are on the top of both of these devices. First up is the Rode Streamer X. You have your gain knob here. You can also click on this knob and you can change your audio input sources. You have your headphone volume right here, and then you can also mute or unmute or turn off or turn on your audio and your video on the front of this device. There's also a phantom power indicator here on the front. So if your microphone does require phantom power, you can turn that off or on depending on whatever microphone you're using. And then over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see these programmable pads. So I've already mentioned that the Rode Streamer X does come with Rode Central, and if you attach this device to your laptop or your computer, you download Rode Central, you can program these pads. They do come preloaded with sound bites and music and different effects that are on these pads, but you can change those. You can also incorporate MIDI. So if you want to control the lighting in your studio, for example, or do if this, then that, anything on this device, then that is available on the Streamer X. Let's take a close look at the Mackie Mainstream. You can see already there are more controls on this device than there are on the Rode Streamer X. Over here on the left-hand side is your volume control if you are bringing in audio from a computer or laptop. If you want to control audio from your HDMI input, there's a volume knob right here as well. This is your gain knob right here for your audio input. There's a signal indicator right there. And then you can also mute or unmute your microphone right here. And then the Mackie Mainstream allows you to capture input from a phone. So this is what that mute button is as well. You can't see it right now because I don't have a microphone, but this is a visual indicator for whatever the gain levels are on your XLR input. You have your headphone volume control knob here. On the upper right, you can send a signal out to external speakers. So there is a stereo out on this device. So this is your volume knob for that as well. And then over here, you can mute your HDMI, and you can also mute any audio that you're sending out to your speakers. All right, there are pads across the top of this device. As of the time of this recording, I can press on those pads or buttons all I want, but nothing happens. So until Mackie and or Rode, now that Rode owns Mackie, releases the Matrix software or whatever software they decide to release that supports this hardware, then you should be able to control and or program those buttons. But this is to be determined. So I will be doing a full review once that software is available. But for now, they just look pretty. Now we'll take a look at the ports on the back of these devices. You have your phantom power button here on the Streamer X. You have an XLR or stereo input for your microphone controls. Over here, this is where your headphone jack is. You can also plug in a headset if you do want to use that both as your audio source, and then also if you're monitoring your audio, you can use that headset input. Over here, you do have two HDMI ports. One is HDMI in from your camera, and then there is a through port where if you want to send your HDMI signal out to an external monitor or insert device here that accepts an HDMI input, then you can use that through device. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here, the Streamer X does have 3 USB-C ports. The one on the far right is your power source. So if you want to power this device, then it does come with a cable that you can power this device, but that's about all that port does. As far as number 1 and number 2, these labels here for USB-C, you can power this device if you connect to the USB-C 1 port and then send that signal out to your laptop or computer. That's how you're going to connect this device to your laptop or computer, and then you live stream from there. The second port on the back is if you want to send the signal out to a second computer or laptop, you can do that as well. But on the back of the Streamer X, these are USB-C outs only. In looking at the Mackie Mainstream, again, you're going to notice that there are already more ports on the back of this device in the Streamer X. Right here, you have phantom power. You can turn that off or on. This is for direct monitoring. If you want to monitor anything coming from the XLR input here, there's a toggle switch here. You can turn that off or on. This is the XLR stereo input to attach an external microphone. You can also attach a microphone using this 3.5 millimeter plug. You can do a headset, or if your microphone has a stereo out, then you can connect it to the back of the Mackie Mainstream using that port. Over here, this is the phone input that I spoke about earlier. You monitor using this headphone out. And then here are your stereo out. So if you want to send your audio signal out to speakers, then you can do that using those ports. And again, on the top, there's that volume knob, so you can adjust the volume. HDMI in, HDMI pass-through, very similar to the Streamer X. Now, over here on the right-hand side, this is a little different than what we're seeing on the Streamer X. The far right here, this is your power USB-C connection, but this is also where you're going to send your audio and video out. So there's only one dedicated out on this one. The other two USB-C ports, one's a 2.0 and one's a 3.2. These are both USB-C ins, so you can connect an external camera using USB-C. If you have a USB-C microphone, then it will accept that as well. So that's The big differences between these two devices are that the Streamer X has USB-C outs, while the Mackie Mainstream has USB-C ins. Now let's take a look at these devices in terms of use cases, and we'll break these down by audio and video and maybe miscellaneous if something is left over. So if you are considering purchasing one of these devices, this might be able to help you determine which one to purchase at this time. So when it comes to audio, your options with the Rode Streamer X are to connect via the XLR input on the back. There's also that stereo input. You can connect using a headset. And the biggest difference between these two devices is that the Rode Streamer X allows you to pair one wireless microphone directly to the device. Now, there is no way to connect multiple audio sources and maybe switch between the two at this time. So for instance, you cannot connect an XLR microphone and pair a wireless microphone and then switch between the two or use the two. It's just one audio source at a time. Now, over on the Mackie Mainstream, there's some interesting things to point out. We can connect using an XLR or stereo input. There isn't a way to pair a wireless microphone directly to this device, but there is a workaround, and I'll place a link down in the description where you can actually use the XLR input to capture a wireless microphone signal and just use the XLR input instead. But the big difference between these two is that the Mackie Mainstream allows you to use a USB-C microphone. So here's the thing. Right now, when I go up to select a microphone input using any streaming software, when it comes to the Mackie Mainstream, it's just giving me the option of selecting one source at a time. So I can either select the XLR source through the Mackie Mainstream, or what's happening is when I connect a USB-C microphone to the Mackie, it's actually coming up as that microphone. So for instance, if I'm using an Elgato Wave 3, when I go to collect or select my USB-C microphone input in Zoom or StreamYard or Riverside, whatever software you're using, I can select that specific microphone. So as of now, I'm not seeing a way to be able to connect multiple audio inputs and switch between the two. But until that software is available, my hope is that we can switch between audio and video sources using the pads on the top of the Mainstream, but that is to be determined. When it comes to monitoring your audio, the Rode Streamer X gives you the ability to monitor audio with that headphone jack, and that's about it. Over here on the Mackie Mainstream, it is a little quirky. You can monitor audio coming in from your XLR input, for example, but as of now, I haven't determined or seen a way that you can monitor your audio if you're using a USB-C microphone. And it kind of goes back to that input selection that I was talking about earlier, how this device specifically is appearing in those options. So that is a little odd. You do have to use the XLR or the stereo input on the Mackie Mainstream in order to monitor audio directly out of this device. So that is a big difference between the two here. Now, the other main differences between these two devices is that the Mackie Mainstream gives you the ability to connect speakers via a stereo out. That's a left and right stereo out. You can see that option right here. So the workaround on the Streamer X that I've been using is I'm just using that audio out port on the back. And I should clarify, I'm using the headphone out port on the back of the Streamer X, and you can get away with sending a signal out to speakers. But either way, I know a lot of you do want that left and right stereo out, and the Mackie Mainstream does give you the ability to do that. And then the other item we've covered is if you do have a USB-C microphone of some sort, you cannot use a USB-C microphone with the Streamer X, but you can use it with the Mackie Mainstream. I'm pretty sure I covered all the use cases. At least these are based off of the questions I've received to date when doing all of my Streamer X reviews. If there is a question that you have about these devices, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer those questions. And now what we'll do is let's revisit the price, because this is another key piece and a big difference between these devices that I think you should be aware of. So the Streamer X is priced at $399 and the Mackie Mainstream is priced at $299. And when it comes to audio inputs, the other big difference between these two devices is if you're using a Shure SM7B or a gain-hungry mic like the Shure SM7B, you're going to need a cloud lifter if you want to use the Mackie Mainstream. The Rode Streamer X has that Revolution preamp that gives you the ability to have a higher gain, basically set a higher gain, so you don't have to have a cloud lifter if you're using a microphone like the Shure SM7B. The other thing that the Streamer X has over the Mackie Mainstream is a 4K capture card. Now, if you are streaming, like most of us, we are limited to a 1080p at best streaming signal. That is pretty much the highest quality that we're going to get while streaming. The streaming technology just has not gone beyond that. So some of you might be saying to yourself, all right, well, who cares about a 4K capture card? Well, I care about a 4K capture card because I don't always use the Streamer X to stream. And I did create a video about this. Being able to capture a video in 4K is just an added benefit. And if I'm recording some type of video, either, and what I mean by internally is if I'm sending a signal from the Streamer X to a laptop, I can record a 4K signal, and then I can also record a very high quality audio signal as well. When it comes to the Mackie Mainstream, the capture card in here maxes out at 1080, and also, as I mentioned, it doesn't have that Revolution preamp or an improved preamp, so there is a chance that you might need to still use a cloud lifter or a FET head or something like that to boost your audio signal so that you get the best audio quality as possible. So when it comes to that $399 versus $299 price tag, I think that's appropriately priced, understanding that you might have to spend another, I think, $80 at least if you want to get a cloud lifter or a FET head to get the best audio signal possible using the Mackie Mainstream. Now, which one of these two do I recommend? Well, first of all, I do want to mention that we're in the very early stages of having these two devices available on the market. And we already know, based on this video alone, that there's more to come. So Rode Central's software is limited and lacking. Mackie Mainstream software, that Matrix software, isn't even out yet. There's a lot of opportunity for both of these devices. And I think now that Rode has purchased Mackie, we're going to see some changes, and maybe these two devices will ultimately merge in the future. But if you are comfortable purchasing now, my advice is to be okay with whatever hardware is available. The hardware works great. It's the software that might be a little lacking. So based on the use cases I went over today, you should be able to choose between one or the other, whatever is going to work best in your situation. So if you like this video, before you head out, I invite you to give a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. And thanks as always for tuning in. And I'll see you again in next week's video.